Well, that's new. Hey, everybody, it's your host, Felipe. You're listening to the Total Basis Podcast. And with me, as always, is Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm just cracking up over here at that recording in progress. Thank you, Zoom, for the new feature and not telling us about it.
That freaked me out.
It freaked me out too, man.
I thought we got hacked into. That's the thing with Zoom. Like last year, they were notorious for these meetings easily getting hacked and Zoom not acting accordingly on time. So so that I thought we were getting hacked, honestly. Like, great, just when we were starting. But thank you guys for joining us this afternoon. If you're on the Baseball Live Facebook group, we are live later in the afternoon as opposed to in the morning. As well, first and foremost, I needed a break from yesterday's festivities as I was out and about in the city for the first time in a long time, Sean, due to the pandemic. But I got
in the city.
Yeah, and for me, in the city is a hell of a trek because I'm all the way like maybe 25-30 minutes away from it in suburban Chicago. So I got to see the Chicago Fire play the Miami, whatever the hell they are, the Inter Miami. They call themselves Inter Miami. Like, ooh, how fancy. Inter Miami, bunch of losers over there. But dude, they came in droves yesterday. I didn't realize that there's a traveling section of Miami or MLS fans that just go from city to city to root for their own team, and they were like mostly sitting up in the nosebleed section. But there must have been
and you could hear them.
Yeah, they were. Listen, if you guys have never been to an MLS Major League Soccer game, I highly suggest you go. They're a lot of fun.
They were. The one I went to, I was thoroughly shocked how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and there was a soccer player for the LA Galaxy. I forgot who he was, but he's an international player. So he's thinking to himself, "Oh, it's just MLS. Who cares? It'll be calm. Nobody cares about soccer in America." He goes into his first game playing for the LA Galaxy, and he's like, "Wow, I didn't realize how rabid these soccer fans in America are." And maybe at one point in MLS's history, that might have been the case that, Americans are just, laid back and calm. They're not as serious as the European and the Latin American contingency. But what this guy wasn't, again, shame on me for not remembering the player. But long story short.
Was it Ibrahimovic? I know he just went over to LA Galaxy.
This is more recent. And,
okay.
So, if you check the LA Galaxy roster, maybe you might be able to find that player. But long story short, basically what he said, what the explanation was, that what you didn't count on was the South American and Mexican contingent teaching some of these Americans how to root on their soccer team. Because I don't know if it's true for Atlanta, because I know Atlanta, dude, if you were to tell me the Atlanta United fans would come in droves and nearly sell out that big ass Georgia football stadium that usually is allotted for the Atlanta Falcons, if you were to tell me that they would lead the league in attendance for years and years and stuff, I would not have ever believed you, ever. I don't. What I mean, you're an Atlanta United. What is the appeal to the Atlanta United as far as soccer fans go?
Well, it was one of those. They didn't have a team, and they got a team. It's a relatively new. I think it was like 2014, 15 was like one of their first years.
Yeah,
and they used to be in this tiny little stadium. I mean, it was like a shoebox. And they packed that thing out. And of course, now, like you said, they're in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And when I went, it wasn't packed out, but I mean, it was loud. It was raucous. It felt like it was filled. And it's just one of those, city accepted the team. And it was one of those, there's not a whole lot of, you wouldn't think soccer would be big in Atlanta, Georgia. But, it got some people into soccer and they enjoy going to the games, and it's an excuse to get cheap seats at one of the nicest stadiums in the United States. So
I don't get it. I mean, they struggle to get Hawk fans to go to their games. The Atlanta Hawks, they lost not one but two NHL teams in the history of that city. Brave fans are notorious for being casual.
Very.
That's just the reputation. I'm sorry, Braves fans. I'm sorry, but that's just the reputation. You guys got to do something to clean it. Because I think Atlanta fans are more interested in the United than they are in the Braves. There, I said it. At least from my vantage point. There. Oh, tell me I'm wrong. I encourage you. Tell me I'm wrong.
I would put them probably slightly above the Hawks. I don't think they're on Braves level yet, but definitely ahead of the Hawks.
Well, I'm a Midwestern boy, guy, old man. And the notion is that in the South, where you live, Sean, it's two sports, especially in Atlanta. There's two things that dominate the region: college sports, especially football, and NASCAR. Everything else takes a back seat. That's why I'm shocked that soccer, that the Atlanta United have just taken that town over by storm. It's pretty remarkable and amazing to see that. But yeah, go check out MLS games. They're a lot of fun. There's no you know how you go to normal sporting events here in America, with whether it be baseball, basketball, or hockey, there's always something blaring from the PA system. In MLS, it's all organic, it's all natural. What in lieu of the PA system blasting all types of sounds and music, you get the fans themselves like playing drums and just singing the entire game. It is so much fun. So yeah, that, and obviously Sean has gone before. I went yesterday to the Fire. It was a lot of fun. So that's my advice from me to everybody else listening today. Okay, hey, this is a baseball show, right? Stop talking soccer.
Yeah. What are we talking about soccer here? This is the Total Bases podcast.
Well, we cover all the bases.
Not the sports. Total corner kicks,
The total corner kick. Total penalty kicks. All right, so a couple of things I wanted to talk about before we get to our big beefy topic of the day. Vince from the Dong City podcast, they show up Monday. And by the way, can we confirm if we're going tomorrow, right? We're going tomorrow evening after Dong. So yeah, we're doing back-to-back episodes. We're recording live on Sunday afternoon, and we're going to record again on Monday night after Dong City. And we're going to take Memorial Day off. So we're bringing you guys 2 back-to-back new episodes of the Total Bases podcast. And then that way everybody can enjoy the Memorial Day weekend. So happy early Memorial Day to everybody out there listening today. Okay, so Vince, he brings up something to consider. I'm just going to read it. Are the Mariners the worst run Major League Baseball franchise? I feel like we hear a lot about the Pirates, the Mets, the Angels, the Marlins, even the Rockies over the years. Oh, that's actually my Vince in my mind when he writes stuff. Let's do Vince when he's in Dong City. I feel like we hear a lot about the Pirates, the Mets, the Angels, the Marlins, even the Rockies, the years, but only one has not had a playoff window in 20 years, has also dealt away all of its stars, and its heyday and consistently is mediocre or bad. I know this all may change soon with the current farm system, but I don't think Seattle gets enough criticism for how much they suck this century. It seems impossible not to make the playoffs for 20 years. I said that's sorry for butchering Vince's accent there.
I love it.
You saw that I had to pinch my nose just to get that deep nasally voice. But anyway, hey, I don't have a nasally voice, Felipe. Okay, so he brings up a lot of good points. The Mariners are pretty mediocre in the 21st century, but I still can't get past the Pirates just being just so bad at running baseball. And I put in my 2 cents. I said it's either going to be the Rockies or the Pirates, and I still say the Pirates because they don't try. Pirates don't try. At least the Mariners try. At least the Mariners have found ways to revamp their system a couple of times in the last 20 odd years or so. Sean, who do you think is the worst run Major League franchise in the 21st century?
I do believe the Pirates, just because they were competent. They had a couple of all-stars, they had a couple of playoff berths, and we all knew that a market team the size that they're in would have to have some sort of on-the-fly rebuild, right? I mean, most of us knew that. It was how poorly they handled the rebuild and just completely played it off like they did nothing wrong. They literally doused it in gasoline and took a match, threw it on there, and said, "Oops, did I do that?" Actually, they didn't even say, "Oops, I did that." They said, "Do you see what we did? This is beautiful. It's a nice big piece of flame artwork." And really, it's just a dumpster fire. That's all it was.
Flaming pile of shit is what it is, Sean.
It's like when you're walking through the art museums and be like, here we have the flaming pile of shit painted in 1678 with watercolors. I mean, that's what I'm expecting from nutting.
Must be a Japanese painting. This is what I responded was, I want to say that at least the Mariners and the Angels, because he did mention the Angels, they at least try. I mean, with the Mariners, they've tried bringing in free agents, trading for veterans. They've revamped their farm system numerous times. We just talked about Taijuan Walker not a couple of weeks ago. Taijuan Walker was a big part of that farm system for a long time. And that's one of the main reasons why Felix Hernandez signed that gargantuan deal. Aside from it being a lot of money, but one of the things that he said in the press conference was, we got a lot of good things coming our way. We got a lot of young players coming our way. This is going to be a really good team for years to come. It didn't happen, but Taijuan Walker was one of those reasons why Felix Hernandez felt good about that team, and it didn't. It blew up in everybody's face, and now 2021, and we're starting all over again. Jared Kelenic, Taylor Trammell, Logan Gilbert, all those guys that we talked about all season long in the farm system. But mainly the Pirates don't try, despite revenue sharing, new stadium, drafting some good prospects that end up excelling elsewhere. I can't. It has to be them. They're just so poorly run and such a, like you mentioned, they try to turn shit into chicken shit, and they just fall all over on it, like just all over their face. So anyway, so that's the Pirates. Let us know who well, I mean, I guess if people have already done it on Vince's, but I wanted to get our 2 cents in as well. So anyway, also today is I guess 20 years ago, Phillies legend Tommy Green pitched a no-hitter. He threw 10 strikeouts and walked 7 guys. And it just seems so fitting that 20 years later, we're complaining about there being too many no-hitters. And it's the problem is that too many mediocre pitchers are getting no-hitters. Well, here's an example of a really awful pitcher getting a no-hitter and walking 7 guys to do it. I mean, I'm sorry, if you walk 7 guys, I know it's a no-hitter, but you still are allowing people to get on base. And to me, that's just...
I believe Santana in his for the Mets, which is still the only one in team history, had 6. It might have been 5, but I believe it was 6. And that was what partially led him to have the astronomical pitch count. I think it was like 137, or it was like 130 something going into the last batter. And I'm like, what is little did I know that in another 10 years, like if that were to happen, I mean, Bauer did get to 120 last week, but that's a rarity. I mean, that's more rare than a cycle, I think, in today's game.
Yeah, I mean, when people make a big deal about no hitters, and you give me this pitching line, I'm at this point, I'm like, you know what? At this point, a cycle, if a hitter hits for the cycle, that's more impressive than giving up 7 walks. Also, Edwin Jackson, I think he got a ridiculous amount of walks. And I think he had a no hitter as well, where he walked like 8 guys or something.
Santana's was 5 walks, 8 strikeouts. I'm sorry. 16 fly balls, 3 ground balls.
Oh my God. Yeah. So
living dangerously.
Yeah. So to me, that's when a no hitter loses its luster, is when a pitcher gives up so many walks. If a pitcher walks like 5 or 6 guys, 5+ guys in their no hitter, I feel like that loses its luster. But if a no-hitter is being thrown even by a mediocre pitcher, and that pitcher is dominant and is striking out all these guys and limits himself to maybe a walk or 2, or maybe even a hit by pitch guy, I'm okay with that. I'm okay, even if it's coming from a mediocre pitcher. But yeah, I can't do this, man. 7 walks from a guy and everybody's celebrating it. I mean, I saw a clip and the Phillies dugout is like celebrating like they just won the Super Bowl against what ended up being a pretty decent Montreal Expos team back in the day. I mean, at this point in 1991, the Expos were 19-21 after this game. The Phillies got to 500. But listen to this team. Delino Shields to lead off. Marquise Grissom struck out 3 times. Ivan Calderon walked twice. So Calderon. Andres Galarraga. On base percentage of 313. So yeah, he can't wait to get out of Montreal to get to Colorado. Hall of Famer Larry Walker hitting 224 to entering this game. And our guy from last week, Sean, Tim Wallach, Eli Wallach's father. And I double checked. No, he did not play catcher.
He never played catcher? Okay. That's mostly interesting.
Infield. Yeah, third base and infield. And here's another name for you. Oil Can Boyd was pitching for the Montreal Expos in that game. And every time I see Oil Can Boyd show up in the 90s, that always freaks me out. Or
it's like, you're in the wrong century here, bud.
Yeah, that's exactly. Tommy Green threw 130 pitches and faced 33 batters to get to that no-hitter. So it's so much weirdness. Delino Shields got caught stealing. And so, yeah, he got caught stealing. So that helped his cause a lot. And Darren Fletcher got the game-winning RBI in the first inning for the Phillies. And Darren Fletcher has a soft spot in my heart because I used to get his baseball card all the time, and I used to think he was awesome. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I don't know. What do you think about all these pitchers getting no hitters in 2021 now?
I'm indifferent towards it.
Yeah,
this is simply, baseball's always been a game of adjustments, moves and counter moves. This is simply one move. Either teams or Major League Baseball will do something, which will be the counter move. And then there'll be a adjustment by pitchers and then an adjustment by hitters. And that's just where we are. It'll be interesting to see if baseball does intervene. Because I feel like a lot of the leftover juiced baseballs, quote unquote, they're in AAA right now. Because I am seeing some like balls just carry while watching some AAA games on, minor league TV. But it's like maybe we just should filter some of those into Major League Baseball just to see what happens.
Well, that's an interesting what do you call it? Interesting idea there. We'll see. I mean, but this is just years and like decade. It's a decade of actually a decade and a half of analytics taking the game over. I mean, I'll admit that this is one way where analytics has done something to really affect the game, to revolutionize the game. That is very obvious, and it just started when a lot of these Major League Baseball teams wanted to have a bunch of high velocity, high strikeout guys. Because why? Because we found out that if you put the ball in play like they used to back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, you're asking for trouble because that ball can bounce anywhere. Once that ball leaves the bat, that can go anywhere. I mean, you got a guy, a slappy hitter like Nick Madrigal, hitting ground balls to shortstop with his speed. That could be anything. He could reach on base on an error. Or the shortstop, a bad shortstop can get an error, trying to feel the ball, and Nick Madrigal's on base in that way. And that's just an example. I like to use Slappy's name around because we've been using him all season long.
We need to get a mascot or like a bobblehead or something. We need a Nick Madrigal trophy.
Yeah, get some tchotchkes. We need some tchotchkes for the folks here. But yeah, so they said, well, in the book that Baseball Prospectus came out with back in the mid 2000s, something I think it was called Between the Lines. Everything you know about baseball is wrong, or some crap like that, which really offended people. But basically, the more strikeouts a starting pitcher gets, or any pitcher for that matter, now that relievers are being utilized more often than not, more than ever before, the more strikeouts a pitching staff gets on a single game, the more you limit yourself to those batted balls in play. From drop fly balls, drop foul outs, double plays that go wrong. You just limit the chances of something being messed up. So, and this is the result. Now every pitcher's getting strikeouts. Every pitcher seemingly is getting a no-hitter, according to some disgruntled fans. And
I saw a really good tweet that was Bob Gibson K per nine. 1 year was like 7.9, and it showed where that was in like 1960 something, and for 2021 it had Richard Blyer, relief pitcher for the Marlins. It said 8.0 K per nine. Be like, obviously he's a better pitcher. I mean, he strikes more batters out. Yeah, obviously.
Clearly. But again, that's why when Melvin is pretty, he's pretty good about baseball history. But one thing I don't agree with him is that he uses every statistic at face value. When we all know, Sean, knowing what we know now, it's just era based. It is so heavily biased towards the era. So one era's 1.31 whip is completely different in a different era. I mean, it's still pretty high, but all things considered, a 1.31 whip in today's, I don't know, in the steroids era, for example, not too bad. 1.31, you'll take that.
You survived.
You survived. 1.31. You're a Hall of Famer. In the steroids era, and it's so yeah, everything it's in its proper era. Everything has to be contextualized at all times. But to say, oh well, that guy had a 4.30 ERA, so he's no good. Yeah, but he pitched in when all the baseball players were juiced, so that should be taken into account. Or another good example for you, Sean, in the 1950s, if you ever look at the scoreboard or the league leaders and start amongst the starting pitchers, you'll see a lot of guys with 4.5 really, and first and foremost, a lot of good starting pitchers with 4.5 walk per nine rates.
Yeah, I know, and you mentioned it with like the 4.3 ERA. Even like in recent years, in 2019, Trevor Bauer and Noah Syndergaard had, I believe, were like 1 and 2 in the National League in runs allowed.
Okay,
and yet they ranked as like top 15 in WAR pitchers. So they gave up a lot of runs. Yes, they both had ERAs over 4, but they went deep into games. I mean, Tito Francona before that trade was riding Trevor Bauer into the ground. Noah Syndergaard had a 10 earned run start where he just had to wear it against the Cubs in September of 2019. And So it's like they have these couple of blow up outings. Bauer had a couple of outings where he gave up like 6 or 7 runs, but it's, yes, if you look at one stat by itself, it's like, oh, he had a high ERA, he must have been bad. Not necessarily. He went deep into games. When you go deeper into games, you give up more runs, you pitch more innings. So you definitely need context in all stats, like you said.
And then finally, the last point I wanted to make was everybody complaining about, well, these hitters don't know how to hit, right? That's why there's so many no hitters. Well, I've been preaching this to whoever can hear this. When you got a bunch of power pitchers, it's just basically teams just saying, well, if they're going to come in with power, we're going to counter with more power versus power, and see what happens. So that's why you're seeing a lot more home runs. That's why you're seeing, but you're seeing less balls in play. But it's all connected. It's all.
It is a literal arms race.
It's. So like you mentioned, Sean, we'll see how these teams adjust, because this cannot last forever. But just sit back, enjoy, because this might be coming to an end soon. Stop your bitching, stop your complaining. Enjoy the no hitters while they still can, while Rob Manfred allows them to be no hitters. Okay, now we move on to the next thing, and that was we promised we have 12 hitters have disappointed, and basically what I have here is we're in the Baseball Life Fantasy Baseball League, right? And I basically pick one hitter from each of these teams who have not lived up to expectations so far. And they must be on the roster as of today, May 23rd. I did not include any catchers because that's too easy. Every catcher sucks. Well, then you should ban the DH. Shut up. Shut up. Okay. And I did not account too much for draft stock capital, or if this player was kept or not, because I just strictly went with year-to-date performance.
I mean, most of these guys were drafted in the first 10 rounds easily,
yeah, or they were
or top 2 rounds, like top 3 rounds.
Yeah, but I mostly base it off batting average and on base percentage. So if you have a low batting average to go along with a low on base percentage, you're probably going to make that list. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for everybody to see the spreadsheet that I was working on today. And let me make that a little bit bigger. And we start out with your guy, Francisco Lindor. I had to, man. I mean, this is on Henry's team. As you can see, the Puerto Rican flowers. The Puerto Rican colors are flying with pride. But unfortunately, Francisco Lindor is not, with only 3 home runs, 9 RBI. This is net stolen bases. So he's been stealing more bases than getting caught. But $1.99 in the batting average and a 307 on base. You're a Mets fan, Sean. How do you feel about Francisco Lindor not living up to expectations?
It's almost anticipated.
Yeah.
Mets give out a big contract. In year 1, things just don't go right. The only real time in like my memory I remember is like Santana. I mean, he came right in off the trade. I think he was signed technically before the trade was approved. They had that window to negotiate. But Carlos Beltran wasn't great. He was good in his first year. Carlos Beltran was good in his first year, but a lot of people looked at him as a disappointment. And then in year 2, he really, turned on the Jets and just became, borderline Hall of Famer. Lindor is struggling in such a way that I would have never expected. I was expecting maybe the batting average stays around 250 like it did last year. He doesn't get on base much, and he hits a few home runs, stops running. That was what I was expecting. This year, he has the highest walk rate of his entire career. He had never posted a walk percentage over 10%. And this year, he's at 12.5. He has the lowest strikeout percentage he's had since 2017. He's not striking out. It's just, he's always, he's a switch hitter. He's always hit lefties slightly better, hit righties for more power. But the 2 things you really got to focus in on with Lindor this year: ground ball rate over 15 or over 50%. And this is a guy who, since his debut, line drive percents of 26, 29, 24, 25, 24.5, and then 33 last year in his lowest batting average, but he got killed by the shift. This year, his line drive percentage, 15%. And that's going to tank your expecting batting average, which he's down to 230 this year on the XBA. Tanks his real life batting average. He's under 200. He's been going back and forth above and below the Mendoza line.
Yeah.
It's just, and now with 7 of the other Mets offensive starters out, he's the one guy that pitchers don't have to pitch to. And he hasn't been chasing, hence the high walk rate. And so it's really going to be hard for him to hit his way out of the slump with such a depleted lineup. But that is exactly what the Mets need right now. And probably Henry's fantasy team as well. I know he's doing well, but he would really love that Lindor be the guy that he drafted. And with the depleted lineup, pitchers aren't going to have to pitch to Lindor. Why pitch to Lindor when you have Cameron Maben and James McCann batting third behind him, which is just embarrassing.
Is he leading off? Is he leading off regularly?
He led off like the one game when I went and saw him in Atlanta. He's mainly been batting second.
I would lead him off. I would lead him off and force these pitchers to actually throw at him and get him more plate appearances. That's what I would do. That's what Felipe would do if he was managing, but I don't manage.
Put on the manager hat, Felipe.
I have it right here. As you can see, 216 batted average balls in play and expected WOBA of 317. So some of the StatCast numbers, they're not, well, I guess the hard hit rate is up, but the barrel rate is only at 5%. So I guess we just wait to see if the Mets get healthy and protect him from and provide more protection. Is that what it is, Sean?
Yeah. And what I was really even worried about, and which is what we saw last year, was he got killed by the shift. Batting left-handed, he was shifted on more than 60% of the time. His pull percentage had gone up 3 straight years. This year as a lefty, he's not pulling the ball. I mean, he's going to all fields, 34 pull, 34 straight, 30% opposite field. It's just so much weak contact. He's getting on top of the ball. And then whenever he gets a breaking ball that he feels like he can really do damage on, it just bounces in the dirt. He's never been a good breaking ball hitter. If you look at his numbers versus breaking stuff throughout his career, he's like a 200 hitter. But this year against off speed, which he's usually done very well, you change ups and stuff like that, same thing. He's just pounding that into the ground. It's just a struggle for him right now, but he's 27 years old. He can't be done, right? Am I just telling myself that?
Remember, 27 is the new 31. So, I mean, it's a younger league. So, yeah, he's on the older side of things, man. I mean, Chris Bryant's 29. Sometimes he looks like he's 33. Sometimes. But anyway, that's Lindor. Let's move on to the next guy. It's Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Andrew's team, only has 2 home runs and 12 RBI. It's already June, and these paltry numbers are just ridiculous, especially how much Andrew, who actually showed up on the show to assess the draft, our fantasy, our baseball live fantasy draft, and he was pretty excited to get him. And these are the results: 237 batting average, 252 on base percentage as of today, 1.9% walk rate with outside the swing percentage of 42.1%. It's a career high. So this guy's pressing. So he doesn't want to walk. This is the opposite of Francisco Lindor. This guy doesn't want to walk. He's just hacking at everything and hoping for the best. What's going on with Lourdes Gurriel, and why has he fallen so bad on hard?
Well, that's probably going to go down as my worst prediction. I was right about it last year, but I doubled down and I'm wrong this year. I always thought Lourdes Gurriel was the budget value pick of Gleyber Torres. And I still think that there's hope, because we have seen the last 3 years for Lourdes Gurriel has been a good hitter, and it's been backed up. The only issues that you ran into with Lourdes Gurriel were his defense actually getting him consistent plate appearances, which with that kind of stacked lineup is hard to come by. And then the inability or just unwillingness to take walks. The batted ball data always looked good. It's just he swung and missed, and he didn't take walks. And in today's game, pitchers are going to abuse that. Once again, another 27-year-old. He might take longer to come around, just because I think that Blue Jays lineup is in such a good spot right now that they're just going to play the hot hand. And it's hard to get back into a rhythm on spot starts. And I don't think he's the guy that you want coming off the bench.
Yeah, well, yeah, he definitely needs to be starting, because if he comes off the bench, he doesn't have the plate approach to be pinch hitting. But I could have sworn I saw that he was still playing every single day, probably because of the injuries that the Blue Jays have sustained. Maybe, I don't know, but I see that he's not getting rested. He's not missing any time. He's still getting his 5-6 plate appearances sometimes. It's just, I think his free swinging ways, and this is one of the reasons I was always kind of hesitant about him. He's too much of a free swinger for my taste.
Yeah.
Like if it works, it works.
I was more worried about Teoscar Hernandez swing and miss issues than I was Gurriel. But hey, we were wrong here. And one of my favorite Gurriel stats in the month of May, he actually has a 247 average, and this is over 78 plate appearances. So you are correct. He has been playing mostly every day. He's batting 247. He has an on base of 244. No walks, and he's been thrown out trying to stretch a base hit into a double or something like that. And so his batting average is actually higher than his on base. I love when that happens.
Ugh. Moving on to the champion, the defending champion, Erin's team, and her struggling, disappointing hitter is Matt Chapman. I had him last year on my points league, and he was kind of disappointing. I know injuries took a toll on him, but I wanted to say that, as you see on my note here, struggles began in 2020. He has a career low exit velocity of 88.2 miles per hour this year. 5 home runs, 20 RBI. Seems like a healthy number, but the batting average is down to 214 with an on-base percentage of 317. I don't know. I can't quite explain Matt Chapman's problem. Would you like to take a crack at explaining Matt Chapman's problem this year?
Well, we would be remiss to say that Aaron was smart. Matt Chapman was actually dropped in our league. Someone gave up on him. I believe it was Jet. I'm not 100% sure. And she picked him up off of, I think he had cleared waivers. He was there for 3 or 4 days and then just added. That's a goof on my part. I absolutely whiffed on that. Some slight good things. He's not chasing as much. The whiffs are still there, which is not good, but career high walk rate, the strikeout rate, which had ballooned back over 30 last year, is still over 30 this year. It's that hip surgery could be sapping some power. I was going to pull up his, the ground ball percentage is back up after being very low last year. His line drive rate last year was a almost untenable 38, almost 40%. So I wouldn't give up on Chapman. He's one of those guys who seems that when he gets hot, he just gets scalding, and you want him in your lineup when that happens. And he plays every day, and he has so far 5 home runs and a stolen base to chip in. So he's a guy I'm not giving up on yet.
All right. Furthermore, he has a 298 expected WOBA. So again, that's another one where the StatCast numbers don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. But I mean, it is Matt Chapman. He's an established player, so we'll see what happens. Speaking of which, established player who's also another third baseman not doing well. In this one, I'm over for James's team, also another Mets fan in our league. 9 home runs. Eugenio Suarez. Sorry, I didn't mean to anglicize his name. 9 home runs, 23 RBI. Oh God, $1.49 on the batting average, 229 on the on-base percentage. What did I put it? Okay, so now that he's a shortstop, he's now hitting like one. What the hell, Eugenio Suarez? The expected WOBA is only at 293. Is the Statcast what Statcast saying about him true, or does he have a chance to turn things around?
His Statcast stuff that we see this year, obviously, is not good, because obviously his results would be at least somewhat better if it were. But the things that gave me qualms when he was hitting the 52 home runs or however many he hit, 49, that's what it was. It was 49 in 2019. And then he hit 15 last year, which was, I believe, top 10 in the league. But we started seeing a trend that I don't like to see. He just started selling out completely. He didn't care how much he struck out. The strikeout rate was jumped from 23% in 2018 to 28.5% in 2019 when he had the 49 home runs, up again to 29% in 2020. This year it was over 30. It's over 32.5. He's just trying to lift the ball right now, and he has hit the ball relatively hard. His exit velocity numbers have been trending up in the last few weeks, but it's one of those, it's not tenable to get out of a slump. He has the 9 home runs, but this is not what Cincinnati intended, especially since they put him at shortstop. And in only, I believe he's played 30 games at shortstop so far this year and has already accumulated a -11 outs above average at shortstop. So yeah, they need a shortstop bat.
By the way,
Trevor Story to Great American Ballpark, please.
Oh God. Yeah, that maybe that could also work for Trevor Story, who I almost included on this list, but I chose not to. But Eugenio Suarez, I was going to mention that maybe one of the reasons why his what you mentioned, some of his StatCast numbers are up, was because he did spend I think it was 3 or 4 games in Colorado, and nothing like going to Colorado to fix what ails you in terms of your hitting. But then again, you just mentioned he does hit in Cincinnati, which is also another hitter-friendly ballpark. So I don't get it. But like you said, for all the other reasons you mentioned, I think it's just him trying to just be this uber-powered hitter, and it's finally catching up to him.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next on the list, Max Kepler. This guy's on my team, on Felipe's team right here. Right fielder, now qualifies at center field, so that's good for me. But he's had 5 home runs, 22 RBI, 5 stolen base net, which is pretty damn good. He hasn't been caught yet, so I'll take that. But unfortunately, I can't trust him, Sean, because he's hitting 223 with a on-base percentage of pi, 314 on-base percentage. One of the things that I noticed, and I started doing more of this, especially when I noticed Max Kepler, was seeing how they're doing against the shift. And right now he's on pace to see a career high against the shift if things continue the way they are right now. And he's only hitting 247 against the shift. So I think that might have something to do with his struggles this year. What do you see on your end?
Yeah, specifically against the shift, since you brought it up, he's always been a relatively high shift guy. I mean, in 2017, which we were still, the shift wasn't what it is today. He was shifted against 23% of the time, then 32% in 2018. And then the last 3 years have just been silly. He has faced a shift 72% of the time in 19, 96% of the time in 2020, and this year 91% of the time. And every single year they've shifted more. His WOBA against the shift has just gone down, down, and down. The upside here is a lot of the stuff, it plays well above average. We're seeing above average exit velocity, max EV, hard hit rate, the expected WOBAs, above average, 58th percentile. He's not chasing. He's not really striking out a whole lot. He's taking his walks. It's a very weird issue he finds himself in now, once again struggling immensely versus left-handers. He has a 531 OPS versus lefties, while his OPS versus righties is over 800. He did leave today's game with an injury, so be sure to check your lineup. You might need to take him out for the beginning of this upcoming week.
Okay, I will. Thank you for the tidbit. Carlos chiming in. He's also a Mets fan, just like you, Sean, saying that Eugenio Suarez has turned into Steve Balboni. I'm like, that's a name I don't think I've ever heard of before. So I had to look it up. He played for the Yankees, the Mariners, the Royals, the Rangers. He was a home run power hitting third baseman, I believe, who was known to also have a tendency to strike out a lot. He was nicknamed Bye-Bye because of his home run hitting prowess. But at this point, if he's striking out a lot, you can also say bye-bye because he's just striking out a lot.
Also, in regards to Max Kepler, he is posting a career high hard hit percentage, according to Baseball Savant's hard hit percentage, is at almost 45%. So yeah, that's there's good things to see here. He has more hope than a lot of the guys that we've talked about today.
So I don't give up on him, man. That's why I don't give up on him. But yeah, he needs to show me something. But yeah, these shifts, they're kind of been a hard spot. That's another controversy we need to address eventually here, Sean, about the extreme shifts and whatnot. But that's for another time. But this is not. I assure you, this is not going to be the last time we talk about the shift. I can tell you that much. Speaking of the shift, Kyle Tucker on your team, Sean. He was a keeper of yours. Yeah, 10 home runs is nice. 28 RBIs so far. He's leading everybody on this list right now. As I keep on hiding them as I go, a net stolen base of 3, which is really good. But he's hitting 227 with an on-base percentage of 295. And I keep bringing up on-base percentage because in our league, we do account for on-base percentage. So this is killing your team right now. And he's batting 214 against the shift there, Sean. Any regrets for keeping Kyle Tucker from last year?
None at all. If you look at this guy, it is just absolutely incredible, the bad luck that he has hit into. He has a 304 expected batting average. That's in the top 7% of the league. A 570 expected slugging, top 8%. His WOBA is 319, while his expected WOBA, which is in the top 10% of the league, is 390. Strikeout rate under 17%, under 20. It's the lowest of his career. Walk rate, highest of his career at nearly 9%. He is still just absolutely crushing fastballs. His average numbers versus fastballs almost comes out to an average a barrel per, every fastball. He's averaging 94 miles an hour on the exit velocity, 21-degree launch angle. He's not whiffing. He is being a great hitter, and he is starting to see more results here in May. He had a terrible month of April with a 610 OPS. So far in May, in over 78 plate appearances, 290, 372 on base, 580 slugging, almost right in line with his season-wide expected numbers, 5 home runs and a stolen base over that so far. And I am seeing that he maybe stole a base in today's game, so we might be bumping that up to 4.
All right. And Carlos agrees with your assessment of Tucker as well. He just chimed in right now. Interestingly enough, Tucker has hit 214 against the shift this year. He's also has a batting average on balls in play of 214. And I you know what, Sean, I kind of feel bad for those who don't know what the WOBA is, weighted on base average. A really dumb way of putting it is that weighted on base average basically says that, a double is worth more than a single, a triple is worth more than a double, and a home run is worth more than all of those combined. It doesn't account for league park factors or era, right? It's just.
But it does take into account strikeouts and walks, which which is what makes WOBA a pretty well-rounded predictive stat, just because it does include that approach as well as the results.
Now, expected WOBA is they take WOBA, but they add and again, a really dumb way. I'm just trying to explain it as best I can. Sean, chime in after I try to do my best here. But basically, WOBA, expected WOBA, is basically taking that weighted on base average and adding StatCast figures to figure out what would happen if, based on what the StatCast number suggests, what the actual weighted on base average would be if it wasn't for things like good defense or bad, ballparks that are more prevalent for pitch and friendly, for more pitchy friendliness. Sean, help me out here as I'm choking to death here.
No, it's funny that you bring up the shift, and I wanted to talk about it because he is facing a career high shift percentage, 84% of the time. But last year in 2020, he was shifted against 40% of, not 40, 74% of the time. And he did not good. It was a 309. But this year, when he wasn't shifted against last year, he had a 462 WOBA. That's incredible. That is like otherworldly. But this year, even though he's facing the shift or no shift less, his WOBA when not shifted against is 229. So that might be one of those things that we have to dig in a little bit deeper into. But I am not worried about Kyle Tucker in the slightest. The fact that he is still putting up all these great peripherals. He's 24 years old. He is just now scratching the surface of that top prospect we all knew he was going to be. This is just awesome to see the maturation process.
Yeah, and like I think you just mentioned right now in the chat that your team is pretty stacked. So I did have to kind of so-called reach for somebody on your team. And just to really click, do you have a simpler way of explaining what expected WOBA is to the people out there? These guys don't know what they're talking about. God damn it.
No, it's I'm trying to say stuff that you didn't say in regards to expected WOBA. Like you said, WOBA weights everything, I believe, not perfectly, but better than OPS weights production. Even almost as good as WRC plus. I'm still a little partial to WRC plus, but WOBA is getting more into the mainstream. Expected WOBA, like you said, factors in that batted ball data from Baseball Savant, average exit velocity, launch angle, things of that nature. Like I said, I'm still a little partial to WRC plus because it has the league average, neutralized ballpark factors. But it's a great statistic that definitely is. It's made to look like batting average. So if you see one that's like 380, that's awesome. That's an insane batting average. So when you look at WOBA, if it looks like it'd be a very good batting average, then yeah, that's a good offensive player.
So yeah, you guys can. Carlos just mentioned he's never heard of that, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people just like Carlos who's never heard of some of these stats. We devolve our entire podcast around some of these new fancy stats, and we're always learning something new about them, how they're calculated, how they're measured, how they are inputted into the system, so it comes in and we can talk about it, and we find that they're a little bit better at evaluating some of these players than just, oh, this guy's hitting 211. I mean, we are using batting average, but for fantasy purposes and for simplicity purposes as well, because that's a universal statistic. But we feel like these other stats do a better job of evaluating some of these players than just simply looking at batting average alone. So that's why we do the things that we do around here. So we're not here to intimidate you or to tell you how smarter we are because we're better baseball fans than you are. But no, this is just our way of doing things to help and make sense of a very complicated sport. So anyway, that's my little spiel there about that. Let's keep going. We got Keston Hiura. I couldn't help it, man. This guy on Mario's team. I could not help it because I had him as a top 3 second baseman, and I was this close twice to drafting him. And at the last minute, I chickened out because of the things I saw last year. And the things I saw last year, Sean, outweighed my expectations about his potential. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. With only 1 home run, 5 RBI, 152 batting average, 247 on base, 32 strikeouts in only 26 games. That's a 36% strikeout rate for Keston Hiura, the former first-round pick and the former highly touted prospect for the Milwaukee Brewers. It doesn't appear like he's going to be coming anytime soon, as the Brewers are pretty locked in at second base. And I don't know who's playing first base for them right now. Do you have any idea who's playing first base?
I believe it's been some sort of combo of like Travis Shaw, Daniel Vogelbach. I think that's it. I'm not sure if Shaw's been playing some third base. I know Vogie's been playing first. Alvasale Garcia had a double dong today, I believe. So, keeping things fresh in Milwaukee.
That just tells you that there's no way Keston Hiura is not coming up anytime. And you know what it is, Sean? What I should have done is, how's he doing in the minors so far? Any idea?
Oh, I do. Would you like me to share?
Yes.
Everyone's so excited. They said, oh, Keston Hiura, he went to the minors. He's played 8 games. He has 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. He's fixed. He's batting 430. He has an on base over 500. His WRC plus is to the freaking moon. Except there's one problem. The strikeout rate in AAA is 34.5%. The swinging strike rate at AAA is down to 15%, which is what it was in 2019, his last time at AAA. So it's actually slightly higher. Has anything really changed? No. You look at his last 3 years in the major leagues, contact percentage, all 3 have been far below average, 65.8% in 2019. It went down to 59.3 last year. And these are on swings. And then this year it bottomed, it got even lower. I don't know how you do this, but 55.3 contact percentage. He is just, the swinging strike rate was 23%. That's gone up every year in the major leagues.
It's not gonna cut it.
It's not. He can't make consistent contact. And if you can't make consistent contact or take your walks like a grown-up, then you have no reason being in the big leagues. And watching him hit was like watching the Clemson hitters I got to see yesterday in the softball game against this pitcher for Alabama, Montana Fouts. She kept throwing repeatedly 70-mile-an-hour fastballs up in the zone. And I get they throw it underhand and it gets a rise action, literal rise action to it. But it didn't matter. It was the same pitch over and over again. Swung through it. That's what it's like watching Keston here. These pitchers, they realized what his hole was because he came up like a ball of fire in 2019. Mm-hmm. They found out what his hole was. They abused it in 2020, and they did it again this year. And he did not adjust. Yeah. And until he makes some sort of tangible adjustment that allows him to catch up to a major league velocity fastball up in the zone, then he can't play in the majors. He can't. And there's just nothing about it.
Of the 12 people on this list, Keston Hiura has the lowest WRC plus of any of them at 47, which this one I struggle with as well. So 47, what is that?
53% below league average.
Ugh, yeah.
And take into account he can't play defense either. That's the whole other. That's why he's in AAA now. Because if he was even a major league average defender, he would probably be platooning at first base. but he couldn't even play second base, and you're not going to throw him at first base. As Ron Washington would say, oh, anyone, or what was it in Moneyball? Anyone can play first base, right, Ronnie? And he looks at Ron Washington, and he goes, it's very difficult.
Before we move on, Carlos brings up an interesting point, and it seems like this is like a counter argument to all the people who do not like what we talk about here, Sean, and there's all these advanced stats, all these StatCast numbers. And Carlos is asking, is all this information that the hitters have at their disposal causing these problems for guys on the list? Is it too much? And for me, well, it just depends with who the hitter is. But for me, you can never have too much information, but you seem
it's what you do with the information.
It's what you do with the information. And you
ignore some of it. You listen to some of it.
That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Sometimes you have to ignore information. Sometimes you do, but you need it there for you. That way you can decide whether you want to ignore it or not.
So yeah, and I was gonna say you were invested in it. You were in the middle of all of that with the Montgomery biscuits. I mean, trying to keep track of all the tracking and the StatCast or whatever version of StatCast they were using that you were running. Did you see players get what you were tracking and try to use it for their own game? What did you see in terms of player interaction with the statistics there that you were keeping track of?
I mean, with an organization such as Tampa, who is so heavily involved, it influences so many of their decisions. You do see some players try and adjust their game to do that. Especially you would see guys in the Tampa system who didn't really have power, but they really worked on drawing walks and getting on base. They had a couple of guys, I believe Tristan Gray was one of them, ended up being a AA All-Star. He's playing for AAA Durham right now. And he's just like this totally not typical first baseman. He could play all around the infield, didn't have much power, but he really started taking his walks. And once he started taking those walks, Tampa started rewarding him. I mean, he moved up. He played in the lineup more. He would play second base. He would play third base. I think he played shortstop one game. They were really shorthanded, but it was like one of those, they reward certain things that they want you to do. And to a degree, that's what made Keston Hiura an interesting prospect, who he wasn't on any top 100s, I believe, going into 2019. He might have been like right on the fringe, but he was a high average hitter, a high BABIP who didn't hit for much power, especially in terms of home runs. And then in 2019, he completely changed what he did at the plate. He geared himself to hit the ball as hard as he could. And he had great success. I mean, he was hitting for a high average in AAA. He called up, hit for a high average again. But he changed the player he was to become the player I think that the organization wanted him to be. They wanted him to be this 25 home run plus power guy. But in doing that, he completely jeopardized his approach. And when you do that, then you're lost. And
would you blame that on all the information? I mean, it's really a chicken and the egg kind of thing here. I mean, what's the main what's the main blame for this? Is it the team the front office who highly depends on this information, all this advanced analytics stuff, or is it the player who tries to manipulate his end results just so that he can look better in the eyes of the front office? It really is. But to me, it just sounds like a big cycle, a toxic cycle, if you will. So it's just really hard to pinpoint exactly where that blame begins and where it ends. And I mean, in your experience, what would you make of that?
I mean, just we'll continue using Hiura as the example here. The last few years, the objective of almost every hitter in baseball is to hit the ball harder. Yeah. Hit it in such a way, in such a spot in the zone that you know your swing and you know that, hey, if this pitch is outside, I know I can really grease it, or if it's really inside, or if it's low, if it's high. Picking your spot and then trying to do damage with it. I mean, that's kind of always been the game, but even more so the last few years where exit velocity and launch angle, these bugaboo words that everyone wants to talk about have really come to the forefront. And Keston Hiura, I think, really bought into that. I want to hit the ball hard. And to his defense, he has succeeded in doing that. He hits the ball hard. Mm-hmm. But he went from, I had his page pulled up here, in the minor leagues from 2017 to 2018, strikeout rate 18%, 20%, 20%, 18%. That's solid. That's good. And then he made that change after AA, going into his first year in AAA. Strikeout rate goes up to 26%. That's 8% in a year is pretty drastic. but it was masked by he hit 19 home runs in 57 games. And so when you see results like that, you don't want to change. You said, wow, this change was awesome. I'm glad I did this. Especially you go up to the major leagues. You hit over 300. I mean, he did have a BABIP over 400, but he always had high BABIPs, even when he didn't hit the ball hard because he was a line drive hitter. And it's one of those, he wanted to hit the ball hard and stay a line drive hitter, and he did both of those. And in doing so, he made himself vulnerable to major league pitching. It's a really interesting case. It's a really interesting case.
Yeah, and when it works, it works, and when it doesn't, these are the results. You get the next Keston Hero on your hands.
You look at his line drive percentages, and they're good. And you're like, this guy hits the ball hard. He hits line drives. He hits it to all fields. What's wrong with him? And it's he swings too much. He swings too hard. I mean, it's like it's so weird.
You know what it is, Sean? I always had this theory back when I was writing for XN Sports. One of the theories I had was maybe, you can hit the ball hard, but you become predictable in terms of where defenses line up to, with the spray charts and the defensive alignments and shifting, defenses are more and more intelligent as to how they can line up to combat these hard hitting guys. We're going to see that with someone in particular as we go on here. But my theory was maybe perhaps if a hitter is too predictable where he's going to hit the ball, he becomes an easy out because of it, because everybody knows where the ball's going to land. I don't know. I can't prove it. That's just a gut feeling I had just by looking at all these numbers as I have been for the last 10 years or so. So we'll talk about it when we get to that player. In the meantime, let's move on to Ozzy Albies for Mike Harvey, who's in first place out of Eastern Washington, trying to do this from last to first kind of deal situation. But Albies actually having a decent season in terms of the counting stats: 9 home runs, 24 RBI, 2 stolen base net, but only hitting .235 with a .309 batting on base percentage. And he's going through a career low BABIP, batting average on balls in play of .226. That's your guy, right? That's your favorite player of all time, Ozzy Albies?
No, this is what I've warned about for years. Do we want to dive into why his BABIP is so minuscule? I think it's very interesting. Great, well, even though his BABIP this year is .281, I find that amusing. He has a .281 expected batting average, a BABIP of .226, and wait for it, a fly ball percentage over 40%. Usually when we see fly ball percentage go up, we see BABIP go down. And usually when BABIP goes down, XBA goes down a little bit too. The line drive percentages dropped a little bit. But going back to the simplistic outlook on why I avoid Ozzy Albies, for better or for worse, he doesn't walk a whole lot. 8.6, this is around his career high. But with him is his inability to hit right-handed pitching, which is what you are going to face the majority of the time. And of course, in a roto league, it all evens out in the end. But this year against right-handed pitching, 208 hitter, 294 on base, 416 slugging. It's a 700-ish OPS. But versus lefties, he has an OPS over 1,000. He's always crushed lefties. But if you are only good against a quarter of the at-bats you have, I'm not sure I want you. It's just, I feel like you hurt me more than you help me. And I can go pick somebody that's a little bit more consistent that wasn't as highly drafted as Ozzy Albies. The splits issue plus his price in drafts is just so astronomically high that it never made sense to me at all.
And of the 12 players here, he does lead everybody on this list with a high WOBA of 337 and a WRC plus with 111, tied with someone else who has not been mentioned yet. StatCast numbers look healthy. Expected WOBA is at 372. So this is one of those things where a traditional fan will look at these StatCast numbers and these advanced stats. Like, this is why these new fancy schmancy statistics are so overrated, because they're turning a guy who hits 235 and trying to pump him up as something else when he really does suck. But 9 home runs is pretty good, right, Sean? 24 RBI. Kyle Tucker has 28. He's only 4 off of Kyle Tucker at this point. So maybe we can expect to see better from Ozzy Albies too.
Seeing his numbers versus the shift as well as a switch hitter is pretty interesting to look at, especially when we compare it to someone like Francisco Lindor, who they both hit left-handed pitching better. But Albies is more of a dead pull hitter versus lefties. Versus righties, he sprays the ball a little bit better. Meanwhile, Lindor is a dead pull hitter versus righties, batting lefty. And then as a lefty, where he is better overall, he sprays the ball around. So it's a little bit of an opposite effect. And versus left-handed pitching, the shift rate versus Ozzy Albies has jumped dramatically. 89.3%. He was shifted on 78% of the time last year versus lefties, 47% the year before that. So continually going up. Woba versus the shift this year of 329. That is a career low versus left-handers in the shift. So once again, another guy who's probably falling victim to the shift, even though he's posting this insanely high fly ball percentage. And with the balls not flying as far as they used to, maybe that's a dangerous thing to play with, especially because Albies does have power. I'm not going to take that away from him. But
surprisingly, by the way.
For such a diminutive guy, when he came up in the ninth inning versus the Mets at the game I was at, he was batting left-handed, and I was like, dear God, just don't let him. He ripped a line drive foul, and I'm like, gee, I was starting to get nervous over there, especially with all the smack I've talked about Ozzy Albies before.
He's basically what I wish Nick Madrigal was, but but also to include Nick Madrigal's contact skills and his ability to not strike out as much. That's what I want Nick Madrigal to turn into. If he's gonna be a slappy hitter, can you at least give me some of that? Those sexy Statcast numbers that Ozzy Albies can provide. It's all I need. It's all I want, man. Just give me some hope. But yeah, so that's interesting. You mentioned that Albies is a dead pull hitter and struggling against a shift as a left-handed hitter. Just makes me think about my stupid theory about, hey, maybe if you are this predictable, even though you hit the ball really hard, defenses can adjust and those hard hit balls land in a glove or something. So we'll see. Here it is. Here's my guy, Jorge Solaire. I'm sorry, you're going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Jorge Solaire. So this is what I'm talking about. This is another guy. I will start with my notes here first. Jorge Solaire having trouble against the shift. He's on pace for a career high plate appearances versus a shift this year. As we usually, when we think about the shift, we think about left-handed hitters, but Jorge Solaire's right-handed, and he's had pretty decent seasons in 2019 and 2020, and this year with 4 home runs, 24 RBI, decent, but a $1.85 batting average, along with an on-base percentage of 267. This might be another one where Jorge Solaire. Let me see where it is. I just had his numbers pulled up. There it is. 50.5% hard hit rate, 12.6 barrel rate, 93.6 exit velocity. And this just goes back to what I was talking about. Like, maybe, yes, you can hit the ball hard, but if you're hitting the ball right at them, it kind of balances out and it defeats the purpose. Now, don't it, Sean?
Yeah, he's got the lowest opposite field percentage of his career. And I think this is something that the shift has killed more. Everyone always wants to say the shift is taking away that ball between the first and second baseman or the third baseman and the shortstop. But he's posting the highest, up the middle batted ball area since 2016 when he was a Cub at 34%. And I feel like this is what happens to a lot of these guys that get mega shifts on them is they hit the ball hard still and they hit it up the middle. So it's not really hitting it into the shift, but based on how shifts are made now, they put the 2 guys to the pull side and then the furthest one away is the one that stays up the middle. And so what used to be a base hit for even longer than when we started putting the second baseman in shallow right field. Because I still remember when the shortstop and the third baseman would still be to the left of second, and the second baseman would be played deeper and into right field. But these shifts now are so extreme that that shortstop or the third baseman, whoever's playing on that side, they play on the grass behind second base, and they can really get to everything, and they just mop up everything. Meanwhile, Jorge Solaire, 15 opposite field percentage of only 15%. So he's really not going to beat the shift anytime soon. He is being shifted on less this year than he was last year, In 2019, he was shifted against 43% of the time, which is pretty close to the 51% of the time. But in 2019, he had a WOBA of 414 against the shift. Now in 2021, he's seen that go down 2 straight years, 325 last year and 263 this year.
Yeah, and like I said, he's expected to see more plate appearances against the shift than ever before in his career. He's on pace to hit that, to break a new record for himself. We're gonna have to discuss this more about the shift, because I like the shift. I like the quirkiness. I like the strategy involved. Like, everybody talking about strategy. Yeah, we need more strategy in baseball. Well, the shift is strategy, right? I mean, if you have that data in front of you, why not use it? But maybe we can talk more in depth about the shift when we talk about pitchers. Yeah, we're going to talk about the pitchers that have disappointed us so far tomorrow on tomorrow night's show after Donk City. So maybe we'll bring that up tomorrow. DJ LeMahieu on Jets team, the Brewers fan, 3 home runs, 14 RBI. I think he's been hitting at the top of the order, trying to set the table for the big boppers and Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and all those guys. I don't know if you're only getting 3 home runs and 14 RBI from LeMahieu, as opposed to Ozzy Albies, who hits 9 home runs with 24 RBI. But I'm just saying, LeMahieu does have a better batting average and on base percentage, 257 and 342 on base percentage respectively, that compared to Albies. But here's what it is. Well, first and foremost, the reason I have to settle for DJ LeMahieu was because Jets draft was so bad that he's basically just picked up everybody on the waiver wire to improve his team. And have you noticed that he's been slowly but surely climbing up the ladder? And I'm kind of wondering if he does what he did last year, like he just kind of.
He did do better later on in the season. I do remember that. The last 4 weeks, I think he went undefeated.
Yeah, and he also had a bad draft. So I'm wondering if he just shows up, drafts whomever, and just relies on waiver wire to save his bad drafts, which is kind of interesting. It's playing with fire, but it's been working for him. So he's making up with it. He's making up for bad drafts. We're talking awful, just real awful drafts. But he's making them up with really good waiver wire selection. So DJ LeMahieu, is this a stretch for me to be including him on this list?
Not necessarily, no. We have seen the average exit velocity come down. We have seen the ground ball percentage go up a little bit. The warning sign was there slightly last year at a 57% ground ball rate. I didn't have time to. I should have done it. If you go and you look at his StatCast shift percentage, it's all 1 shift, 0, because he does go the opposite way so much. But I want to say I have seen teams put the opposite shift on him, especially in the outfield. They've been doing it in the outfield for years.
Interesting.
This year, the line drive rate is down. It was 29, almost 30%, both in 2019 and 2020. It's down to 2021 or to 2021. It's down to 23% in 2021. He is 32. I trust the approach. I'm sure he's going to have a hot streak here. He's walking more. The strikeouts have gone up a little bit, though. He's still not chasing. It's a good approach. And he's already given us 2 stolen bases. So if you get 7 or 8 stolen bases out of him, that might be nice.
All right, let's quickly move on to the next person on the list, Alec Balm. I know he's just a rookie for Matthew Whelan. But surprisingly, I think he too has just been very busy on the waiver wire. So it was pretty hard to just pick a player from Whelan's team, although his team still sucks. But Alec Balm kind of has disappointed in his first full season as a third baseman in Major League Baseball. 4 home run, 24 RBI, 3 stolen base net, which I did not expect. 222 batting average, 255 on base. Is he hitting that rookie wall a lot sooner than expected, Sean?
I don't believe so. And I meant to bring this up with Solaire, as these 2 guys appear on a list of the top 15 unluckiest player based on their differential between their WOBA and expected WOBA. Jorge Solaire is the 5th with an 81-point gap. He had a 156 or 257 WOBA, 335 expected. Alec Balm, on the other hand, a 253 WOBA and a 318 expected. When you break it down more, exit velocity still high. Expected batting average is 270. And he had a very bad month of April. He's picked it up slightly in May, so he's kind of building on it. It hasn't been a great month of May, but it's been better than April was. He's really crushing left-handers, struggling versus righties. You'd have to go and look and see. He is facing roughly the same mix of pitches They're not throwing him more fastballs than they were last year. He is just not having as many good results on it as he was last year, only batting 185 against fastballs. His batting average, expected batting average, is supposed to be 265, though. So you would expect once the batting average comes up against the fastballs, maybe we see the numbers come up as well. The line drive percentage still looks awesome. I still think he has this weird Anthony Rendon type ability that we're going to see, and I would not give up on him at all.
And that's some high praise, because Anthony Rendon was one of my favorite prospects back when I was starting my sports writing career, so to speak. Last guy on the list, Javier Baez. And I mentioned earlier that Ozzy Albies leads everybody in WOBA and ties in first on this list in WRC Plus with Javier Baez at 111. So here's the numbers: 10 home runs, 30 RBI. This is for Jacob's team over there, over at this the Step Back podcast, the Basketball Life podcast. 6 stolen base nets. So on face value, in terms of roto numbers, 10 home runs, 30 RBI, 6 stolen base net. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
right. Why
you're gonna take it, especially with a 255 average, which isn't great, but in a roto league with the numbers he's given you, that's awesome.
Unfortunately, in a league like ours, where we do account for batting average and on base percentage, 294 on base percentage, by the way, that's not good. And this guy was supposed to be a top 6, top 8, maybe even top 10 shortstop. He's now ranked 15th overall, and that's because of all the injuries that the position has taken. I saw a lot of injured guys behind him that should be higher than him in my points league. So Baez is 15th ranked in my points league, and he should be a lot worse. 57 strikeouts, leads all the shortstops in the top 15, and also leads Jacob's team as well. So it's same old Javier Baez, will swing at everything, hack at everything. He's making it kind of work for himself, but this is just getting ridiculous. Any signs of hope that he could be much better than this?
We've seen that. We know Javier Baez has raw power. We're seeing a career high barrel percentage at almost 14%. He's completely changed. Not completely changed, but drastically upped his fly ball percentage. Had never been higher than 22%, which it was in 2018 and 2019. It's nearly 29% this year. Dropped the ground ball percentage a little bit, but the line drive percentage has cratered. That's where a lot of what the trade-off has been. My main issue when I look at his numbers this year is he's always been like a 40% whiff guy against breaking balls. He's hit them relatively well over his career. He just swings and misses so much. This year, though, against fastballs, 40.4 whiff percentage so far, 211 batting average, and a 210 expected batting average. So he deserves every bit he's getting here. And he's getting put away more on fastballs this year than he is on breaking pitches, which has never happened in his career. And I really am concerned if you start whiffing on fastballs. He already has shown himself very vulnerable to the down and away breaking ball that he swings at a million times. But if he starts getting put away on fastballs, that's a big red flag to me. That tells me the bat is like at 28 years old. I don't know how, but the bat's slowing down, which is just weird to think.
I'm sorry. Did you say he was 28 years old?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, 28 is a new 33 years old now. You should know already. You got to stop bringing. Listen, unless a guy's like below 25 years old, 28 is just old in today's game. I'm telling you, man. That's just the way it is.
And this is a guy who has always routinely crushed fastballs.
Yes,
in 2015, batting average over 420. In 2016, batting average 310. 309 in 17, 311 in 2018. This is kind of weird how 3 straight years they're all within like 2 points of each other. 2019 went down to 270. Whiff rate jumped about 5% to 30%. Last year, of course, was a struggle. He still batted a respectable 250 against them. Whiff rate went up again 5% to 34. And then this year up 6%, and the batting average against fastballs drops even lower. That is a dangerous trend that I do not like to see in a power hitter.
And furthermore, we mentioned Albies having the highest WOBA among these 12 guys that we just mentioned today. 337 for him, expected WOBA of 372. For Baez, who's second behind Albies on this list, 334 WOBA, expected WOBA of 305. So it's it looks like he's getting exposed for the absolutely crappy plate approach that has just been driving a lot of Cub fans crazy over the years. And for some reason, it works very well for Tim Anderson just on the other side of town. And I guess it technically works for Javier Baez, who's very explosive in his own right. But man, when things are not falling the way they should fall for him, it gets ugly in a freaking hurry. So we'll see what happens with Javier.
Kind of looking at Baez's hot zones real fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking a lot, and when we pair it with the fastball trends that we just talked about, they're pitching him up in the zone more, and he is getting a lot of whiffs up there, more than he's ever had before.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems like this is going to be down and away breaking ball, high fastball, rinse, repeat. And to a degree, it's working. I mean, if Javier Baez hits a home run off of you, but you execute on those pitches, then you tip your hat and you move on. But the 790 OPS, sub 300 on base, he's not the guy that I'm worried about in that lineup. He's not. He is pitchable. He is pitchable.
Okay.
Very.
Which brings us to our last topic of the day, lightning round. Add him or leave him on the waiver wire, as I'm going to just ask you a bunch of questions about guys who are, let's make it 40% or less, because some of the guys who are at 50% or high or lower, we talked about them already at one point or another. So let's go with 40%. And this is all according to CVS Sports Fantasy Baseball League. So the first guy on the list, Josh Fuentes, 35% this week. Guy like me, do I go out and get him, or do I leave him on the waiver wire?
I would leave him on the waiver wire.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see who else is on the list. Adam Duvall at 35%. Is he worth picking up this week?
No, I think Garrett Cooper is getting hot. He's going to get a lot of time in right field. I think Garrett Cooper is starting to take playing time away from Duvall, which is something we were afraid that Duvall was going to do to Cooper. So no.
Who's that? Jonathan VR? 33% owned.
For this week, I would say yes. And I don't like Jonathan VR, but JD Davis was expected to be back at the beginning of this week on Monday. He did not play for Syracuse today. They said that you will not probably see him until the end of the week if everything goes well, which it's the Mets. So who are we kidding? Yes, I'd go add Jonathan VR. He's been batting leadoff in front of Francisco Lindor, who he has struggled, but he's batting leadoff, career high walk rate so far this year, I believe, for VR. Go at him.
All right. At 13% owned, G-Man Choi. Guess who's back? Back again. G-Man Choi is back from, I guess, injury. I forgot.
Yeah, he had the arthroscopic knee surgery in spring training.
Thank you.
Missed the first few weeks. They took their time getting him back. No. Too much of a platoon thing with them going on. And I wish I could see their schedule, just because I know they have faced a lot of lefties lately, and Yandy Diaz is like the automatic start for them. So he's just a risky start because it's Tampa, and don't know how much he's actually going to play in a week.
All right, so he's at Toronto still. They have, I guess, their series is extending till Monday for one game. And then he faces the Royals and the Phillies this upcoming week.
The Royals have several lefties in their rotation. I know that.
It doesn't tell me what pitchers he's facing. But here's something else. In terms of the game log, since he's been back, he's been playing every day.
Really?
Yeah, I'm telling you. 4 at-bats in every single one of his games since he came back on May 16th, which is Lagwagon Day. But no, he's been back. So that's why I had to ask at 13%, is he worth it or not? Or is he still too much of a risk for you?
So far for the next 4 days against the game against Toronto in Kansas City, they're only facing one lefty, and that is Mike Minor on Wednesday. So yeah, go at him.
All right. Yeah, I knew I could change your mind. So yeah, G-Man Choi, he's back and he's better than ever. Who's next on my list here? Who's this guy right here? Danny Santana is back for some reason.
He's alive. That's a weird way of spelling Jarren Duran.
Well, Jarren Duran's going to be down in the minors for a bit longer, as the Red Sox are in no rush to get him. But Danny Santana owning 10%. Last week he was only owning 2% of leagues. I'm not sure why his stock is going up a little bit. But
because he got called up.
Is it that simple?
Yeah,
Okay.
he was called up by Boston earlier in the week. Played, I think, first base. Like I said, first base has been a real troubled position for Boston, as well as in the outfield. Danny Santana can play both. He hit a home run in his first game. He had that weird 2020 season back in, I believe, 19, and then didn't play at all in 2020. It's a risky game to put faith into Danny Santana, who's like 38 million years old.
All right. Okay, so out of curiosity, I went into roster resource to check on G-Man Choi's in the Tampa Bay Rays, right? So Yandy Diaz is listed on the bench, but he's played every single game since Tuesday.
It's been like Choi at first base and Diaz at third, I believe, or Choi DHing Yandy at first.
Yeah, exactly. And G-Man Choi did get benched for 2 left-handers. I don't know why it says that. When I saw his game log, it showed that there were no gaps, so I figured maybe he got in late. I don't know, but it showed that he was benched for 2 lefties, once on Wednesday and once on Friday. But he's listed as the primary first baseman with no platoon situation going down there. So take that for what it's worth. Because you never know with the Tampa Bay Rays.
No platoon in Tampa Bay Rays in the same sentence does not compute.
I understand. I worry just the way you worry, but maybe G-Man Choi might be the exception. I don't know. Vidal Brujan. Speaking of Tampa, people were hoping and speculating that he would be the one called up after Willy Adames got traded, and looks like a lot of those people are gonna be just holding the Vidal Brujan bags, but. He's a young guy, top prospect, might be worth keeping around. 34% owned in CBS leagues. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I would stash him now. I knew once I saw that Adames was traded, I said, and they acquired 2 people back. I said they have to clear a spot on the 40-man to add Franco. I don't see them doing that this early in the year. And Brujan, in their eyes, I don't believe is no longer a shortstop. They keep giving him cursory looks there, but he's mainly been at second and center field. I think that's where they primarily envision him. I was not expecting Brujan after that trade. Maybe Franco a little bit. I was holding on hope. But Taylor Walls is a good player, and if you play in a deep league, I would definitely go out there and get him if he's still available. Because he is going to play every day for Tampa at shortstop. Maybe split some time with Joey Wendell, but he is by far the best defensive player probably on that team, not named Kevin Kiermaier or Manuel Margot.
Nice. Who's next? Jacob Stallings. Jacob Stallings, the catcher from the Pittsburgh Pirates, 30% owned in leagues. He's been a hot commodity. For those who don't know, he's mostly an on-base guy with a 367 on-base percentage. Do you believe in Jacob Stallings?
Can we go back to what we said like at the very beginning before our main event? And you said, I don't count catchers or something to that effect. Because that's how I feel about Jacob Stallings. It's like, if you need a catcher that just gets plate appearances, then fine. But he's been a little unhealthy lately, so you got to cross your fingers.
Well, it looks like he's back. He's played in back-to-back games already, but he's also been benched already. So we'll see. Actually, yeah, he was benched in back-to-back games as well. But so yeah. But again, if you're desperate, there's your guy. I mean, we're talking really desperate here.
Yeah. He would have to be pretty damn desperate. Like, I would have Williams Astudillo playing catcher for me.
And we cannot stop talking about the Tampa Bay Rays. Taylor Walls also getting a little bump in ownership rate. 9% though. So no one believes in Taylor Walls. Do you believe in Taylor Walls?
I just talked about Taylor Walls. Go at him if you're in a deep league.
Okay. No, that's that. Out of curiosity, Taylor Walls, listed as the primary shortstop for the Tampa Bay Rays. No platoon on he's a switch hitter. So maybe that's why there's no platoon on.
Picked up 2 doubles in his first game. He's a line drive hitter. He seems more like a defensive or infield defensive focused Ben Zobrist. He takes his walks. He doesn't strike out a whole lot. He plays a lot of positions, second, third, short. I think they even put him in left field 1 or 2 games in Montgomery. He's a fun player. He flies so far under the radar because he's in the same system as Franco, Brujan, Greg Jones, then Lucius Fox before he got traded. But Taylor Walls close to those 1-to-1 walk to strikeouts. Good approach, line drives, solid player.
Next on the list, if I can find Jesus Sanchez for the Miami Marlin. He's been getting a little bit of a pick-me-up lately. What do you make of him?
Saw him as well in Montgomery before he was traded by Tampa to Miami. He has all the talent in the world. He's got a 10-cent head. He's got a beautiful swing. I love his swing. He's got off to a hot start in AAA. The issue that he runs into in Miami right now is Miami's center fielder for the last few games has been Magneuris Sierra, little speedster with absolutely no power, with Starling Marte on the IL and John Birdie not playing well. The issue is they have too many corner outfielders. Corey Dickerson, Garrett Cooper, and Adam Duvall, who we just talked about. Those guys are still healthy and fighting for at-bats. Jesus Sanchez cannot play center field. He can barely play right field when he wants to. Mm-hmm. The bat is probably ready. It wasn't ready last year, but if they were to ever call him up, it would have to be now, but I don't know where he plays because right field's clogged. Left field is Corey Dickerson's. Center field is waiting on Starling Marte.
Fair enough. What about Adobo Herrera, who seems to be back for the Phillies now? And
I'd hope I had a better bench that I wouldn't have to add him, especially with how easily accessible outfielders are. You can usually find an outfielder.
He's been playing every day. But again, going with the 40% or less. So we're seeing a lot of obscure names here today. What about okay, never mind. Nick Matone for the Phillies as well, another Phillies player. He's
gonna get a bump with Didi Gregorius going on the IL. Not really a fantasy relevant bat.
All right. Yeah, I had him in my baseball life league, and he lasted maybe one period. One period for us is only like 3 days or 4 days. Yandy Diaz, I know we talked about him, but he's also available at 19% of leagues. Do you still believe in Yandy Diaz? There's just another situation where Tampa is just too many platoon situations going on.
I will always believe in Yandy Diaz. He has lost the launch angle gains that he found in 2019, which has completely sapped him of power. But if you play in an OBP league, it's like the equivalent of getting Tim Anderson in a regular batting average league. His on base is just that good. He never strikes out. He walks. And like I mentioned earlier, Tampa likes to reward those guys that get on base. And Yandy Diaz is doing that. G-Man Choi coming in is going to throw a little bit of a wrench into the plans, but still like Yandy Diaz, still holding out hope that he gets some more fly balls and therefore more home runs because he always hits the crap out of the ball.
All right. Nearing the end of this list, Jonathan Dazza, who's only owned in 10% of leagues, had a pretty good week last week, stinker of a week this week. Would you take a risk on Dazza for the Colorado Rockies?
The only reason I would is I'd be holding out hope that maybe he's like the new Raimel Tapia. He's been an okay hitter, a pretty good hitter in the minors, and he's in a big ballpark. He's batting .324 this year. I just feel like it's going to be a lot of empty average, and you're really going to be relying on some stolen bases here to make him more relevant. But the batting average should be good. I believe, I'm trying to think if he's a big ground ball guy. Yeah, ground ball percent over 50, and then the minors, it's always been high 40s. But the line drive percentage so far is good. Hits to all fields, and he plays in Colorado. So, yeah, if you need batting average help, go for it. He's right-handed Raimel. That's his nickname.
Kike Hernandez is return from injury, 37% owned. You're already shaking no. Okay.
No, I don't. I do not like Kike Hernandez at all.
I do not like Kike Hernandez at all. I do not like him. No, I don't. Oh, that's a horrible Dr. Seuss. Jaron Duran, it seems like we're always talking about him. It seems like he's always rising a little bit by a little bit. Already at 25% this week. Ownership rate. It sounds like the Red Sox are not in a hurry to get him, but is he another one of those guys where you have to stash and just
he needs to be stashed now. Carlos left in the comments that he is holding on Franco to the moon. I am holding on to Duran to the moon. Like, I need him up in several leagues. I have had him stashed since draft day.
Yeah.
And it's just like digging a hole in my bench. But I just know the power gains are real. He hit a 475-foot and a 480-foot home run in the same game, which lends me to believe that they're playing with the 2019 Major League Ball, but that's neither here nor there. The power gains are legit. The speed is legit. The hit tool is legit. I don't know what Boston's waiting on.
All right. Next guy on the list, 24% owned for the St. Louis Cardinals, Harrison Bader. an old favorite of mine, but I don't know what's going on with him in terms of not meeting that potential. Do you still believe in Harrison Bader as a late blooming prospect?
He's just always going to be the home or the defense over offense player, and that's okay. He's going to run into the occasional home run, hit some or get some stolen bases. He has 4 home runs, 3 stolen bases so far this year. The expected batting average is up, which is interesting to see. I'd like to dig more into why that is, even though his line drive percentage has gone down. Fly ball percentage has gone up. Struggling against fastballs this year, only batting 150, but he is crushing on some breaking balls, batting 345 with 3 of his 4 home runs coming against breaking pitches. He's just always trying to lift the ball, and he's a small guy. He does get pretty good max EV, 111 so far. It's just, you always worry. So far, his strikeout rate's only 14%. In the 4 seasons prior, 26, 29, 28, 32. So he might be skipping by on the seat of his pants that he hasn't struck out as much, but he's, if you're really hurt in terms of injuries, then yeah, he might be a guy to just add and hope for the best.
All right. Freddie Galvis at 25%. Yes or no?
Probably not.
All right.
I mean, he did better last year than people expected. I just don't know. 260. Yeah, he's fine. I'm not going crazy to go get him, but if I have a couple of injuries, then sure.
Speaking of Wander Franco, he just got traded in my league right now.
I thought you were about to say he just got traded. I was like, what?
Oh, I am so sorry. Well, you only because you mentioned that with what's his face with Carlos saying that he's holding him on to all the way to the moon. Well, somebody gave up on him already.
Who did he get, or who did he get back?
You know my friend Kerry, right? From he's been on the show before.
Stephen Carey?
Yeah, the White Sox fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he traded Wander Franco, and it looks like, is that Austin Nola or Aaron? Oh, Austin Nola. So Wander Franco and Austin Nola for Jose Barrios. No draft picks were involved.
Have a good night, everybody.
Oh, wow. No, he's disappointed.
Steven, you're a friend of the show and you're a friend of mine. What the hell are you thinking?
Maybe he believes in Jose Barrios.
Hey, Wander Franco in my 30-team dynasty got traded, I think, 3 times, either last year and 2019. The dude got passed around. I think he only got proper value traded once. One of them, the guy got like nothing in return, and I was just like shaking my head. But wow, that's light. That is very, very light.
Moving on, Garrett Cooper, 19% owned. I know you might have mentioned him already. Yeah, you're to the moon.
He's taken jobs, plate appearances away from Adam Duvall. Even though Adam Duvall is like 3rd in the league in RBIs, at least in the National League, he has hit a bit of a skid. Garrett Cooper is getting hot. Had the walk-off home run last night against the Mets. And if you ask me, Garrett Cooper is the better all-around hitter. Duvall is more all or nothing. He's done well in runners in scoring position, hence why he has a lot of RBIs. But I think they see Garrett Cooper as the guy that they want to get going. He's younger and under control and just better.
All right, final 4 for you, and then we can call it a quits for tonight and get ready for tomorrow night. As this thing loads up, Brendan Rodgers, who I just got done listening to one of those The Athletics fantasy baseball podcasts with DVR, and they talked a lot about Brendan Rodgers a lot. Where they argue that if you're in a league, you want to be the guy who either strikes out or hits a home run with Brendan Rodgers, because former top-level prospect, potential still there, might be healthy for the first time in his life. What's your
How many times have we said that? He was hurt. He was hurt last year, but he might be healthy this year.
This might be the year. God damn it! Okay,
it's kind of shocking that Brendan Rodgers is only 24 years old.
Yeah,
because I have enough Brendan Rodgers fatigue that I feel like I've been waiting on him for 24 years.
It seems like it, right? It seems like it. But okay, so yes or no on Brendan Rodgers?
No.
Really, no, just like that.
I can't. I don't trust it. And even when he has played, he hasn't been very good. And maybe he's one of those guys that, like in 2025, when he's still only 27 or 28 years old, turns into an all-star. But yeah, in a redraft, maybe a dynasty, this is a time you send a really cheap buy low offer and try and get them and rip somebody off and just hold on to that lottery ticket. But in a redraft, I have no wanting for Brendan Rodgers at all.
He's owned in 30% of CBS sports leagues. Here's an old favorite of yours, Josh Naylor. I think he's an old favorite. I forget if it's Josh Naylor or Tyler Naquin, who's one of your old favorites for the Cleveland team.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. Okay, 21% owned. Josh Naylor, yes or no?
I like Josh Naylor. I worry that the power is just not going to come. I know he has a good hit tool. But it's so funny because he's kind of a big huskier guy and he just doesn't hit for much power. Yeah, and strange. To me, that really caps his upside. And right now, this year, the Cleveland lineup is a bit of a mess. He's still only 23 years old. Has shown a elite level max EV of 114. Still trying to figure out breaking pitches. Is absolutely ripping fastballs like he always has done. He had one of the best like AAA PCL seasons I've ever seen. Like it was like something out of this world, even better than it was up there with Keston Harris. But yeah, he's a guy I like. He needs to be DHing or playing first base, and they keep putting him in the outfield. But with Franmil Reyes out, they're really going to lean on Josh Naylor, so maybe he steps up to the task.
All right. I was going to say Matt Beatty's one of the last guy here, but man, actually, no, I got one more guy after him. But man, I just don't see any reason to own him. Even at 13% own, I don't see any value. Do you see value in Matt Beatty or can we move on now?
Is he getting playing time? I
thought he was,
game
but
logs,
I guess not. No.
He's played the last 2 days, pinch hits 2 days before that start.
All over the place, man.
A lot of strikeouts. I mean, his stat line looks good this year, 290. Average 395 on base. Slugging is low. He seems like a fifth outfielder pinch hitting bat for the Dodgers. So probably not fantasy relevant.
All right, move on. Yeah, he's on the bench according to roster resource for the Dodgers. And that's saying something because the Dodgers are injured everywhere. So you would think that they could use a guy like him, but I guess not. Okay, last guy, Taylor Ward. It seems like I've been hearing about Taylor Ward since forever and a day now. 9% owned. He's a corner outfielder. I could have sworn he started his career as a second baseman. He's been getting a lot of playing time lately. I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% sure as to why, but what can you tell me about Taylor Ward?
So Taylor Ward is getting playing time due to Mike Trout being out. He has stepped in playing right field. Okay. Joe Adell and Brandon Marsh are still in AAA. Joe Adell has 7 home runs so far in only 15 games, but striking out a lot. Brendan Marsh would probably be the guy that gets called up. But even then, Taylor Ward might have a job. 90th percentile in sprint speed. I do believe he was a top prospect, so that might be why you've heard of him for so long.
A long time ago he was.
Yeah, good defensive player so far this year. The big red flag I see is he can hit a fastball. Congratulations, dude. 294 batting average, 618 slugging against. But versus breaking balls and off speed, he has 21 at-bats that ended in them, 8 strikeouts and 1 hit, which was a single. He's whiffing 58% of the time versus breaking pitches and 43% of the time 43% of the time versus off speed. He's a dead red hitter, fast, plays good defense, but no, I'm not really sure he's the grenade I'm jumping on to save my season.
So according to Fangraphs, he was a top 15 prospect for the Angels farm system. So not overall.
Okay. I felt like one time he used to be like a top 100 guy, like a long time ago, maybe.
I feel like at one point, according to Baseball America, he might have been top 5 in the Angels organization. Okay. But it feels like it's been forever and a day since he's been relevant.
Started off as a catcher. He was drafted as a catcher, yeah. And then he was third base. I'm trying to see if he ever played second base.
By the way, according to roster resource, while you look that up, he is listed with a platoon with Jose Rojas at right field.
Yeah, so, Rojas left-handed, Ward right-handed. That makes sense.
And your guy Juan Lagar is getting some playing time, being the next Mike Trout for the Angels. Look at that.
Yeah, Juan Lagares is Mike Trout. If only he did that for the Mets.
Well, defensively, he might be.
What, below average for the last 3 years?
Oh, hey, man, you know what? As long as Mike Trout stays in center field, that WAR will just continue to rise higher and higher and higher.
Okay, so Taylor Ward never played second base. He played catcher from 2015 to 2017. 2018 became a third baseman, and 2019 became an outfielder. And he's actually pretty good of an out. It's kind of crazy that a guy who catched or caught for 4 years and probably all throughout college and high school is 90th percentile in sprint speed. Who does he think he is? Isaiah Kiner Falefa?
He's having a man. He's that guy, Falefa, Kiner Falefa, superseding any expectation I had of the guy. I did not.
I always thought it was just going to be like empty batting average with like 15 steals, which is probably like a cheat code if he's catcher eligible in your league. Yeah. But it's I don't know. The offense is still boring to me.
But I could have sworn he's top 3 in my points league. That's how much of an impact he's made at his position. At his position,
yeah.
I should say.
Yeah, he's batting 290 and has
at shortstop. He's
10 stolen bases and 5 home runs so far.
And that's why he's top. He's in the top because of that. So that was weird. But as a catcher, if he still had catcher eligibility, I mean, you'd be making out like a bandit right now. But unfortunately, he doesn't have that eligibility anymore. I'm trying to see where some of Taylor Ward's like rankings elsewhere, but it's not what it used to be, Sean. These websites are getting lazy with their maintenance. Taylor Ward is a former first rounder. I think you might have mentioned that already, but wait. Oh, I gotta buy a subscription. That shit used to be free. Damn it. Damn you, Baseball America. All right. Well, I know what I saw, or I think I know what I saw. Hey, that's a good place to stop there, Sean. We do have other podcasts. Again, tomorrow we're going to go after Dong City Monday night. So that's Monday night is usually reserved for Dong City, but you're going to get yourselves a double header of baseball podcasting with Sean and I going in immediately after Dong City ends. Then we have the Audible over at the Football Life Facebook group with Matt and Randy. It's the dog days of football, NFL off season. I don't know what the hell's going on. Mini camps, I think it's mini camps, voluntary camps, involuntary camps. I don't know.
I don't think we want to talk about involuntary camps.
It's the unwritten rules of the NFL. You gotta show up to those involuntary camps. The Workshoot podcast, Wrestling Life, with Corey and Jason. I'm not quite. Apparently the big controversy is that they use zombies for one of the pay-per-views over at WWE.
Oh no!
I think they might have talked about that already, but I did not know this. I just found out this morning that the WWE made a ton of money because they were doing a cross promotion for a new movie starring their former wrestler Dave Bautista. So maybe it's a good thing to use zombies. And
oh yes, the new Netflix produced one. I want to watch it. It's kind of looks like one of those mindless action flicks. But
is that the Army of Darkness one? I honestly don't know.
It's like a zombie heist, Vegas heist movie. Yeah, it's crazy.
Maybe it will be interesting. Did it need WWE to get involved? I don't know. But
did Vince McMahon make $1?
That's all that matters. What did it cost? Over $1 million. God damn it! Yeah. Who's laughing now, pal? What's the other? The Step Back Basketball Podcast. Playoffs. The playoffs are here for the NBA. We're seeing a lot of high drama, a lot of interesting things going on. So never a dull moment in the NBA, even when people say the NBA is dull. But now's the time to keep an eye on it because now they're playing for real now. They're all being serious.
For real now.
For realsies now. And then every Sunday morning, except for this upcoming Sunday, because it's Memorial Day weekend, we want to take a break from all this for at least 1 week. It's the Total Basis Podcast, bringing you the best informative baseball podcasts anywhere out there. For Sean, I am Felipe. We will see you next time.